What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Continuing to sort of unwrap the portal season, understand where everybody went, including our own guys, where our depth chart stands. We're going position by position. Yesterday, we talked about quarterbacks, also looked at our own schedule. Stanford, Wake Forest, two teams that I think either stayed in place or maybe took a step back roster-wise. They will be Miami's first two ACC opponents. So we will move on to Clemson today and also talk about Miami's running back room. 4 first-round picks for the Miami Hurricanes this year. Some people believe it. We'll talk about that. And, of course, always taking your questions. Shout out to the first-round picks at Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good morning.
We got a comment here from Dr. Ooh, says how late they're going to be today. I don't think we've been late in the year 26.
I'll have you know, Dr. Ooh, that we've been very timely here as of late. And guess what? If we were 5 minutes late, you would have been sitting right there waiting for us to go live, my friend.
I know, but you know what? We're not doing that anymore. We are punctual. We're like an Iowa farmer right now in terms of our punctuality and just being on point. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Pete, let's get into the running back position, man. Let's just jump straight into it because I really, again, we were such a whirlwind for 2 months, 3 months, really since the SMU loss. I feel like it's been a whirlwind of, first existential dread after SMU that we might not be going in the right direction. Every single game was survive and advance, not just survive, but really try to thrive and advance. Do we put up enough points to get where we need to go? Watching the college football playoff show with your boy Yurichek every single week, then the selection show, then the playoffs. Signing day was in there as well, then the portal, and then you had immense courtroom drama. So now we're taking a step back and breathing, looking at all these different positions. Talked about quarterback yesterday, excited about that room. Once you put Mensah in, a lot of young talent. I think the young talent's as good as has been in that room. Now we move to running back. And, man, I don't think any of us expected this room to look this good heading into the year. I mean, did you? I thought Fletcher might be gone. Forget everybody.
You mean heading into 2026?
26. I'm just saying,
yeah.
I would have thought Fletcher might have been gone. There would have been some portal guys. We've been scrambling. And now to bring back everybody, I mean, this is a hell of a room.
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can look at it. I think you kind of heard before the playoffs that Fletcher was leaning towards coming back. But then after he has that run during the playoffs, not a singular run, the consecutive performances that he strung together there, record-breaking performance for him, most rush yards in a playoff. He had more games than other people had, but you thought, hey, you got to sometimes strike when the iron's hot. And he obviously stayed put, which, quite frankly, for the second half of the season there, I think we've all kind of expected Jordan Lyle to hit the portal. He stays put. Marty Brown, there was some, I mean, I heard programs this is no secret, but programs were coming after him hard, about as hard as anybody on the roster, because you got to think they're offering him a starting position at Power 4 programs. Walk in and be the starter somewhere. And if you're Marty Brown, not only do you have Fletcher already in front of you, but you know Lyle, what he's capable of, because he was the starter before the season started last year. Or when the season started, I should say, because he took snap number 1. Then Gerard Pringle hits the portal. You get him back, and you're saying, hold on here. I would have felt good if you keep 3 of the 4. I would have felt great if you keep 3 of the 4. Now you're thinking, hey, there's no way these guys can leave after spring, right? Because it's just and I have it here in the title of the thing, but just as I look around, a lot of talented backs returning, but no one has the depth that Miami has, not even close to it.
No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, looking at the stats here, So starting with Mark Fletcher, because you really got to look at the stats now that the whole season's done. Obviously, he had more games in the playoffs. Almost 1,200 yards, 1,192 yards, 5.5 yards per carry. He's been consistently in that 5+ range for his career, but took it to another level in the playoffs against the best competition. 12 touchdowns rushing, also 17 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns receiving. So 14 total touchdowns. He's going to make a run at that touchdown record this season if he stays healthy. And then blocking wise, I think we've been saying for a while that he's the best blocking back in the country. And now you're seeing national analysts say the same thing. I've heard multiple national analysts, Brooks Austin, Landon Tangwell, other analysts watching our games have him as the number 1 pass blocking back in the country, which I think is accurate when you see what he did to an Arvell Reese. I mean, Arvell Reese might go number 2 to the Jets, and he couldn't get past Fletcher. Obviously, it wasn't perfect. He had Aiden Fisher kind of juke him out in the championship game, but that's football. He's as good as it gets. So, yeah, Fletcher was just outstanding. Marty Brown, similar to kind of what he did at North Dakota State, where you look at the yards per carry and you're like, oh, it's not super explosive with the yards per carry, only 3.9 yards per carry. But he won a championship at North Dakota State, playing a huge role. Then this year, every big game that Miami won, you saw number 6 have his imprint on the game. 7 touchdowns rushing, 2 touchdowns receiving, 20 catches, also a really good blocker, just making all those winning plays. Gerard Pringle, 375 yards, 6+ yards per carry, the explosive component, 4 touchdowns. And this was interesting, Pete. When you look at the last 2 guys on this list, Jordan Lyle, who we all thought was going to be the starter, 108 yards, 3.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown.
Hey. No thinking. He was a starter.
He was a starter.
I have to correct myself sometimes, D, because he took the first snap of that game, and coming out of scrimmage number 2, he was the dude.
It's an objective fact.
That was not our opinion. That's what it was.
Good correction, Pete. You are absolutely right. He took the first snaps. What do you call that? He was a starter. 108 yards, 3.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Injuries had a lot to do with that. And Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, 108 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. So he actually had more production than Lyle did on the same yards on less carries for Chris Wheatley-Humphrey. But I think we all know, and we'll go through all these guys, that Lyle's got a lot more gas in the tank, as is Wheatley-Humphrey, right? All these guys can do more. But I think just top to bottom, looking at that room, size, speed, power, and good character. I don't know. You looked around the country. There's some great backs. Missouri's got a hell of a running back up top with Hardy, Lacey. We saw him in Ole Miss.
I think Lacey. I still take. Sure. I think Lacey and Fletcher are neck and neck for best in the country. Obviously, they're different backs. D. I think Fletcher, as we saw there. I mean, Lacey was no slouch. He had the big one on us there, but I think he was a little bit banged up, and I think Ole Miss fans would say it too. I think his shoulder was a little bit banged up at that point of the season. Fletcher was fresh as a daisy, ready to go, busting off 50+ yarders in the national championship, doing stuff we haven't seen him do before. So I think in that sense, I'll take Fletcher over him. But yeah, man, it's the depth. Overall, there's some good backs coming back. I think Isaac Brown is a guy that we're all huge fans of from a distance in terms of the talent. And like, he's one of those that you can't get mad as a Canes fan because he just never got an offer. Right. So that's one that I think a lot of Canes fans, we saw what he was able to do against Miami. You mentioned Ahmad Hardy. It's the depth of the room, though. It's the depth of the room. Like, it's one thing to say you have 2 backs, but to have 3, to have 4. You know who one of my favorite backs in the country is? Is LJ Martin from BYU. I know you're a fan of his.
Yeah, no.
BYU's going to be to me, that's a playoff. They could win that Big 12.
Yeah, I was impressed.
I know Texas Tech is there, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I kept waiting for Bachmeier to kind of go back to the pack. And look, he had a tough time against Texas Tech because their front was just so much better than BYU's offensive line. He was getting destroyed. But Bachmeier really finished, I thought, strong against Georgia Tech in a really fun Pop-Tarts Bowl. So he's impressive. LJ Martin, definitely a good physical back. But yeah, look, bottom line is Justice Haynes.
Who's now at Georgia Tech now.
Yeah, there's some good backs. But overall, I think when you look across the country, everybody, when they do their preseason list, is going to have Fletcher somewhere in that top 5, right? So you have a top 5 back right up top.
And EJ says depth is great, but don't overdo it. And I've seen him comment like you gotta play the hot hand. It's very difficult to play 4 backs in a game, realistically. Like to get them all feeling like they were involved in the game, right? But I think what you saw is over the course of a season, 4 backs, you can play the hot hand within stretch of the season. Beginning of the year, you saw a lot more Marty Brown in the beginning of the year than you did in the middle part of the year. Later part of the year, who was bringing us home? Who had some big plays? Gerard Pringle. You didn't really see him much in the beginning. You didn't see him much in the end. Mark Fletcher was that consistent guy in the entire equation, but he wasn't starting the year as the number 1. That was Jordan Lyle.
Let me ask you, Pete, real quick, because I'm just was Marty the only back that didn't start a game this year?
Yeah, because Pringle started. You're right. Pringle started. What was it, NC State?
Yeah, when Fletcher was hurt.
Yeah, that would be it. I mean, Chris, we can't overlook Chris.
The top 4 guys. Yeah.
I mean, you even had didn't Lofton get a first touch against A&M? Yeah, wasn't he?
He got carries. He can run better than he showed. He was banged up this year.
And D with Lyle too. I mean, I've heard that he was banged up multiple times this year. Like I heard he got obviously hurt in that Notre Dame game, and then I don't know that it was just a confidence thing. I think he got hurt again trying to get himself back in the middle of the year.
100%. They brought. I think him and Lofton. Just the more I learn about this season, talking to people, just kind of. I think they might have come back too soon. And there's that happens in a football season. These guys are trying to win a championship.
Well, it happens when you see the room, when you see that running back room, the way it was working. And I forget what game it was, but we heard that there was it FSU game that he was, after one of these games that he didn't play, he was very motivated to get himself back. And I think when you get yourself to that point, you try to push yourself through, which pushing yourself isn't always a bad thing. If you're getting to the later part of the season there, but you're playing 17 games potentially.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, Pete, that you just hit is when you look at these 4 backs, you say, oh, we got too many backs. We had too many corners this time last year. Remember the too many corners deal? And then what happened? You needed every
Jabari Antoine's lining up against Jeremiah Smith on what was that? That was a 4th down, right?
Right, with your season on the line.
It's like that's stuff that you only see in the college football video game, but that's where we are now with how long these seasons go.
No doubt. So there's never too many. And I think starting with Fletcher just at the top, again, he's established himself as a top 5 back. I think he wanted that for himself, obviously, just the pride. For those who don't know Mark Fletcher, when he was a young player, like a youth player, talking about Pop Warner, with all these great players that you see coming out of South Florida right now, he was the best player, right? So he was always kind of the best player locally, known as the best player. And that was, I'm sure, how he viewed himself and how a lot of people viewed him. He has dealt with injuries really since he was a sophomore in high school. He told me when I interviewed him this past offseason that this past summer, was his first healthy offseason that he can remember, including high school. So he's just been banged up. Even this year, he was banged up, missed a couple games, missed time in camp before the season even started. So to Fletcher, he's established himself as a top 5 back. He's shown that he's the same guy that he was when he was a young player. He's a national name. Everybody knows who he is now. He's a leader of this team, unquestionably one of the leaders of this team, if not the leader of this team. Coming back shows that he's trying to win a championship. I mean, every good thing you could say about him. He's been my favorite player the whole time. So obviously, I'm going to hype him up. But
I don't know, man. You tried sending him to the fullback room for a while there, but
never. There's no fullback room. I'm saying,
that was the joke.
All I'm saying is the guy blocks as good as Alec Ingold. Plus, he can run for 150 yards in a playoff game. So that to me makes him.
I'm not gonna let you say he blocks like Ingold. Yeah, man.
Hey, you saw him when he did to those Texas A&M linebackers.
I did, but I saw the Indiana situation too. I don't know that Ingold.
Look, it's football, man. That happens sometimes. But I mean, he's a big dude. Like he could easily do all those fullback things plus what he does running. You even heard one thing we've said on the show, both of us, is you don't know how big Fletcher is. What are you laughing about?
No, The comments are remembering.
I wanted him to play fullback and run. I still wanted to play fullback and run.
I think this is a good shout here by Canes Cat Seed. He said so. He's Alonzo Highsmith.
Yeah, that's what I
not the same build, but yeah, I think you have compared him to him. So.
That's what I comped to. Alonzo Highsmith was the third pick of the draft. So when I'm not saying like he's a fullback, like he's like a off, walk-on type of dude. I'm talking about this. He's a unique player with all the stuff that he can do. But look, obviously, my favorite player on the team. I think a lot of people around the program's favorite player on the team. But I'll say this also, Pete, with Fletcher, we said it, and now I heard like Brooks Austin, the film guy, national guy. He said it after going to the Texas A&M game. You don't realize how big Mark Fletcher is until you're like at field level or like in person. Like this is not just a bulky, heavy guy. This is quite frankly, he's cuts to 225 with how lean he is and how big he is. He could eat. If he said, I want to bulk up to 240, he shouldn't because he needs his speed to do what he did in the playoffs. But if he just said, I feel like bulking up to 240, he'd be 240 in a second and look good. I mean, he is a big, big dude. I think that helps Miami's physical presence on offense to have a Mark Fletcher.
Maurice Lewis says Fletcher only needs 15 carries per game. Split it up amongst the rest. Save him for December. I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be some games that you need him to carry it 20 plus times, like Notre Dame. You're going to have Notre Dame on the road. I want the ball in Mark Fletcher's hands in those situations, right? But then you also have we're focusing on the running backs here, D, but we've talked about how deep the wide receiver room is as well.
Yeah, and you need them healthy. You need Fletcher healthy. That's to me the key of just because he's going pro, but you want to keep him healthy for the pros as well. Not even because you want to save him for the playoffs, even though you want to do that as well. He's always been a little hurt with his running style. He's a pretty wide target as far as like he stands straight up. He's more of an upright runner. He's so tough and physical that he's going to take hits. You got to just protect him from himself a little bit. So I think that's the key. Although, as I say that, I'm not sure you don't play him a little bit of fullback, split backs, right? Because you have these three other guys. So if you want to get more guys on the field,
himself, man. He can't help himself.
By the way, same thing goes for Marty Brown.
Well, I think to your point, and I'll go the opposite side on this. Like we talk so much about Pringle and what his deficiency has been to this point, which is that he's not a physical back. You throw him out there, and you know that it's kind of a telltale sign because he hasn't been great in pass protection at this point. But to me, that's also on the play design, the scheme to like be able to use his abilities in the best way possible because we know what he does have.
100%. And all these guys, the challenge becomes how do we get all of them on the field? And I think that's a good problem, but it's not just keeping guys healthy. I think they all do different things. So switching to Marty Brown now, I think does a lot of the same stuff that Fletcher does. Maybe not the extra gear that Fletcher has to go to the house like he did in the national championship game. But in terms of being physical, keeping the offense on point, and also he can be that fullback, and we'll call it split back, right? You put him and Pringle on the field at the same time, and he's lead blocking. He can do that stuff too. Also a really good pass blocker. So really Marty to me seems like a Fletcher, I don't say replacement, but just you can do similar things with both of these players. Also good hands, as you saw with that one-handed catch. So what do you see from Marty Brown this year, Pete?
Much of the same, really. I mean, I don't think that I think what we see with him is he's not going to go down on first contact, right? He has pretty good patience. He's someone he's also on the other side not going to bust off like these explosive runs, but middle part of the game, late part of the game, third downs. I mean, he's not going to make mistakes. He's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. The perfect complementary back. Now, it is interesting that he's complementing another bigger, powerful back. That's what a lot of people have kind of pointed out about this whole situation. But, dude, if that guy's you're going to tell me like a Virginia wouldn't want that kid?
Oof.
Like, what would he do at a school like that?
I mean, truthfully, man, I'm looking at a team like Clemson. We're going to talk about here in a second.
I literally was about to say Clemson. Like, yeah, I don't want to diminish what the kid is because, and Virginia was in the ACC championship last year. But out of Clemson, he would be a dude.
Yeah, he's a winning player. I mean, think about it. First year, he's a redshirt freshman. He's the running back, and he started off in a rotation last year at North Dakota State. Ended up winning that job, running for 1,000 yards, winning the Young Player Freshman of the Year award at the FCS level, the Jerry Rice Award, same award Cam won, Shedeur Sanders, a bunch of other guys. So he wins that award. And you watch a national championship game, he's pushing piles, he's scoring touchdowns, he's doing the same kind of stuff he did during our big games. Then you watch Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida, some of the big games where Marty Brown was absolutely critical to our success. Ole Miss had some nice runs. So he is just really, to me, you look at the stats and say, yeah, yards per carry under 4. I don't get too excited about that on paper. But when you actually watch what he does in big games against the absolute best teams, this is a playoff caliber player with Marty Brown.
D, I wanted to bring up this comment from Kevin. He says, don't forget Javion Mallory. This is an interesting one to me, D, because I got to be honest with you. I hope the kid stays patient. You can't think that he was under the belief that Fletcher would be back, that there'd be 5 back, and then Chris Wheatley-Humphrey coming back too. That's another one in the pecking order so he's running back 6 right now. Injuries happen. He could come out there and be the best freshman back we've seen since Frank Gore, or Duke Johnson, maybe. I don't know. I just hope he stays patient, because it is a tough situation for a guy at that position who is used to being the man, is used to having the ball in his hands. I hope that he stays focused, right? Because keep him engaged, scout team, whatever it is. It's an important year for him, because at the same time, he's got to go in there and do his job, right?
No, great point. The good thing is there's no second portal window, right? So these guys are here, which is why I think you kind of experiment with them in different roles, because what are they going to do? Leave? You could see where they could fit in spring. I think with Mallory,
you're going to put him at fullback too?
Nah, he's big, right? The thing with Mallory is he's built to play right away.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a guy that I think is going to need a ton of seasoning. I think he kind of is what he is, and that's a really good back. He's big. He was the MVP of the camp I went to last February. Man, camp season's about to kick off, man. We'll be covering those. But I saw him there with Derek Cooper, and he was the better back in that setting. Derek Cooper's speed and all that made him a higher prospect, but Mallory was the MVP competing with Cooper. Good receiver, good size, natural runner. Reminds me, and I say this comp, he doesn't remind me of the Frank Gore that ran for 10 yards a carry or 9 yards a carry at Miami as a freshman and ran for 3,000 yards or whatever in Gables. That was a little more juice, but he kind of maybe later Frank Gore, like, after he left San Francisco, Frank Gore, where it just hits the hole hard, has that unique lean ability to make guys miss, never really taking hits straight on, tough. He's kind of that style of back, and so I think he's ready to run if he needs to. But yeah, it's going to be a test of his patience, because he's got a lot of competition. But hey, let the best man win. Good problem to have. I think if he needed to play, he could play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know how it is for these freshmen coming in. And again, you have to think in his mind, he's like, well, at least 2 of these guys or at least 1, maybe 2 of these guys will be gone. Good problems to have if you're Miami.
No doubt about it. And speaking of the transfer portal, Gerard Pringle, running back out of Sefner Armwood, true freshman last year. Great end to the season, at least the regular season, right? He is a guy who comes in. He was banged up in spring, banged up in camp, so he didn't get on the field early. But then when he did get his opportunity, I remember after the Stanford game, I believe, I made a post on CanesInSight like, hey, I'd love to see some more Pringle, because he shows some juice there. You lose to SMU, the running game really struggled in that game. The season's on the brink. You say, all right, now let's get Pringle involved. We need some more juice out of this running game. We're not explosive enough. He has a really, really nice finish to the year. Gets shelved in the playoffs. We saw the pass blocking was an issue against, I mean, you're talking about monsters like Ohio State with 2 first-round linebackers, Texas A&M and all their blitz packages. It was just a tough deal for him in that setting. You saw that playoffs was about physicality. It was about age, right? Guys like Fletcher, guys like Marty Brown just fit better in that setting. Bo Jackson, who's the freshman for Ohio State.
Pringle, yeah, but I was going to say, Pringle got a touch in that Ohio State game, right?
He did, and he had a nice run. He almost broke it. But I think the pass blocking was just tough to deal
Overcome.
with in a game like that. Bo Jackson on the other side, who's another true freshman back, you saw in a key down, Wesley Bassant just blew him up. Good effort by Jackson. It's not like he got scared. He stood in there, but being a true freshman going against a senior linebacker, he got eaten alive and ended up a sack on Julian Saint and a really, really tough play late for Ohio State, killing a drive. So that's the downfall of a freshman tailback, especially a smaller guy. So he was frustrated by that, not playing as much in the playoffs, jumps in the portal. Miami really didn't want to lose Pringle. We said it the day he jumped in the portal, both of us, you said on the Discord as well, this guy needs to come back. Miami's going to put a strong effort to bring him back. They do bring him back. And I think what he brings to the table is a unique combination of north-south running, not being a dancer, not being someone who shies away from running between the tackles, but elite 10-6 type speed and quickness.
Yeah, and I think we've gone almost 30 minutes here without mentioning, at least I haven't mentioned Matt Merritt, the running backs coach, who deserves a ton of credit in this because he's the one who's running these rotations during the game, right? So he has to have the trust of these guys when he's talking to them to say, hey, look, this is what I envision your role is going to be. Gerard, this is what I envision your role is going to be. And at the same time, has to be real with him about why he wasn't playing in those moments. Pringle probably had to have a little bit of moment of reality where he says, yeah, you know what? I understand. I get it. We made it to the championship game. So it's not like I can sit here and say, man, if I played here or there, the situation might have been different. Same thing in the championship game. That wasn't a game for Pringle, right? They would have exposed him in the backfield there, my opinion. But if Merritt could sit down with these guys and say, all right, let's put together this plan for you, for how you're going to take the next step as a player, how you're going to be used within this offense. And with each guy, that conversation is different. But I think with Pringle, I mean, you have to really look at it and say, you're the only one in this room who can do something different than everyone else. I think Wheatley-Humphrey has some of that speed element as well, D, but we've just seen it to a higher degree from Pringle at this level, right? So all of that to just give credit to Matt Merritt in bringing this room back, because running back, man, to me, it's a position where guys have it or they don't. But at the same time, to keep an entire room engaged of very, high talent individuals, the guys who are being pulled different directions from other programs, were being offered starting spots, all 4 of them at Power 4 programs, essentially. It takes a lot. So I give him a ton of credit there.
And he was a big one to get Pringle in the first place out of that Tampa area where he recruits. So yeah, shout out to Coach Merritt. And he's got a good job this year as far as having great guys to coach. But like you mentioned, it's going to be balancing personalities and people who want to play. With Pringle, I think weight gain is going to be critical for him. You don't want him to obviously be a bowling ball out there. You want his speed and quickness, but I think he still has room to gain weight.
Amon might jump in the comments here and start getting on you about that one, because you don't want him to lose the speed, as you're alluding to.
But there's room to grow. I mean, I think Malachi's close to maxed out. Like Malachi really hit the weight room hard and is.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing with Mike on his get to 200 pounds.
No,
comment.
Not at all. I mean, what's Malachi going to do? Like, how many guys? He's stiff arming guys. He's breaking tackles in the college football play. How much stronger can he get? But he'll get a little bit stronger. But he's not like he's weak right now. Pringle, I think, can gain weight. To me, the guy that he's always been compared to, both from the staff and then his own internal goals. Not saying he is this guy. I'm saying this is kind of the aspirational target, is a Jahmyr Gibbs. That's who he looks up to. I talked to his parents at practice a bunch. That's his favorite player. That's what the staff's kind of sold him on. Hey, you'll be our Jahmyr Gibbs. I pulled up Jahmyr Gibbs' combine numbers. This is after his junior year, so 3 years in to his college career. 5'9", 199 pounds, 4.36 in the 40. I think with Pringle, he is 5'9". He's not shorter than that. He's going to be able to run in that 4.36 range, I think. He plays that fast. He ran track. He 10.6 in the 100. I mean, that's pretty much that 4.3 range verified. So he's probably running 4.3 something already, but he's in that 180 range. I don't have a scale in front of him, but I'd guess, right, Pete, he's somewhere maybe in that low 180s. Pringle.
Give me a second here.
Oh, look, you got the media guide handy. What a pro.
So before the season, he was listed at 190. I'm not sure that I'm not sure I believe that one.
That seems a little inflated, but okay, whatever. Either way, 199 is Gibbs, and I think anything between 195 and 200 is where I think Pringle, and really that Pringle should live. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is not a big guy, but he does have, strong traps. When you look at him, he looks like a guy who's been in the weight room a little bit. He doesn't just look like a skinny dude fresh out of high school. Maybe he did out of high school, but he doesn't look like that now. So I think Pringle, his goal this offseason, kind of like Malachi.
And he's short. He's not a taller back, right? So and I don't say short in a bad way. I'm just saying like he can only carry so much weight. His frame is his frame. You can't overload. I think I forget who it was in the comments here who mentioned Duke. Duke put on a lot of weight, which I think at the time he did need to bulk up because he was getting a little bit banged up here and there, but and he was still very effective at a heavier weight, right? So it's not like he turned into a bum, but it just looks a little bit more explosive when you're leaner. It's funny. You know whose highlights I came across yesterday. Our boy Cam Harris, his highlights from Carroll City. And Cam was a big boy. He got really, really big, but Cam was moving. I mean, he had some long runs at Miami as well. He had the deep speed. But it's just funny because you look at him in high school and he was obviously leaner. He hadn't put on a lot of that weight. He was still a bigger back, but he was running away from people.
Our boy Kirk Menendez says, if Mercury Morris was 190, then Pringle can be 190. Look, Mercury Morris was playing in a different era. I think the defensive linemen were about 220 back then, so he does have to bulk up a little bit. But I think 190, if he actually is 190, he's pretty close. I think he's probably a little lighter than that, but in that 195 to 200, that to me is a target for Pringle. He's an inside runner. Like, he's not a guy that's you throw him screens and you get him on the perimeter. He runs between the tackles. He is a north-south runner, and he's tough too. He got a lot of carries at Armwood in high school. He was not like a specialty guy at Armwood. He had 30-plus carry games for a good team. So he's tough. He can handle all that. It's really just about his body, and that'll also help him in the pass blocking as well. But the upside
and taking hits because he didn't. He didn't. His role was smaller. You expect him to have bigger role this year. And then as the years go on, I think it's about taking the punishment you're going to take at that position as well.
No doubt.
Having that extra padding on you.
Yeah, he was banged up in spring, banged up in camp. We need him healthy.
He had like a shoulder thing that was going on early in the season, right? So,
and people think we're being critical of Pringle. Pringle is a huge part of next year's team. We need him out there being an impact guy that he's capable of. I mean, 6 yards to carry last year. The offense with Pringle rolling is a whole different animal. And quite frankly, in the playoffs, if you had Pringle, I think we made the right decision rolling with the guys that we rolled with for that playoff. But if you have a more veteran Pringle in the playoffs, I mean, he can change games with 70-yarders. I mean, that's his capability. He is a threat to score from 99 yards out. He's a 600 meter guy. That might be actually low. I heard he actually is faster than that. He stopped running later in his career. So he could even be faster than that. This is a legit 4-3 back. If he would have jumped in the portal, truly, you would have seen Georgia.
Well, Georgia and Bama were on him.
Yeah. So it's like, this is not like a Chris Johnson going to SMU. We'll talk about it here in a second. I think Pringle has shown a lot of ability, and his upside is through the roof.
Yep. And we've talked about these top four guys. We talked about Mallory for a little bit. Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, because he was someone I mentioned the other day. He was starting kick returner with Keelan Marion. right? So yes, we might say, well, we didn't have any big returns this year, but that's a position of trust. And you want to have someone back at there he's done it now for the last couple of years, right?
No doubt. And was able to get on the field, which is good for a young player in any circumstance. Reminds me a lot of Henry Parrish. That's the comp I use for him, where he's just a slippery guy. He can run between the tackles. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a between the tackles runner. Always kind of slithers his way to positive yards, can be very productive. Henry Parrish, very productive player, both in the SEC and at Miami. So that to me is where I see a Chris Wheatley-Humphrey who he'll be competing for a spot. Him and Mallory, that's going to be a tough competition there in spring and fall. And in these like full pad scrimmages, Wheatley-Humphrey has been playing well. Like when you do tackle, because just for those who don't go to practice, they don't tackle to the ground in practice. Even the more physical practices, they're not tackling running backs to the ground. That only happens maybe twice a spring, 3 times a spring, 3 times a camp in legitimate scrimmages. And even then, it's usually just for the first half. And then the second half, they're doing thud again. And they just, thud, they hit, but they don't take the guy to the ground. So when they have had those opportunities to take to the ground, Wheatley-Humphrey's had some really, really good runs, which reflects well on his ability to do it in games. Pete, we got to talk about this. People are going to be asking about him. And we saved him for last, not because he's least, because I think this guy could be, I've said it earlier, I think this could be the sleeper pickup of the entire portal season. This could be the guy that we look back on the portal season and be like, man, I am so glad that this guy's a Miami Hurricane, and that is Jordan Lyle. Jordan Lyle, one of the hardest working, most driven players on the team. This is a guy who his struggles last year were not the result of a guy that didn't care or took it easy. If anything, he wanted to succeed so bad he might have gotten a little tight coming back from injury before he was ready, obviously dealing with his injury. But size, he's much closer to the Fletcher, Marty size strength than like a Wheatley-Humphrey or Pringle. He's a big physical back, but he has that speed element that you get with a Pringle. He has the ability to go all the way. He had the longest run in UM history against USF, and you've seen it in practice. Explosive, just tightly wound, has balance, has toughness. That's not an issue either. Can catch the ball, can pass block. He's really got it all to be a complete NFL-style back. It's just a matter of getting it done on the field and being healthy and being available. And I think the chip on this guy's shoulder is going to be huge. And if he just has a breakout game or two to build confidence, this guy could be, to quote my boy Birdstone here in the comments, he could be an X factor down the season.
Yeah. And I mean, he's probably, you could argue, and it's very tough to say this after watching Fletcher, what he just did, but at all of their peaks here, he is the most complete back out of this bunch, I think. Right. You saw the glimpses in the USF run. He had against Stanford, had a nice touchdown run where you felt like, man, is he getting back to it? Right. It was later in the game. I think it was second half. Right. But he just never got himself right from a physical standpoint, which seeped into and affected his mental. I really think. I think his at that point the confidence was shot. They really didn't even try to give him a go late in the season, right? So I think they realized he wasn't where he needed to be to help this team at that point. But you have to give the kid a lot of credit for sticking with it here in this era, where this stuff in terms of people reaching out to him didn't just happen here at the end, right? It was happening all season long. So for him to be hearing all of that, to be seeing the guys around him have success, and not in like a way where like he's hating, but like him knowing what he's capable of and knowing who was the guy getting the first touches of the season, it had to have been really, really difficult for him. But you use this now as a reset, hit these workouts hard now, get to spring and know that, hey, Fletcher doesn't need to be getting all that many reps, right? You have a lot of guys in the room who need to get themselves right. Same Marty Brown, I think he's kind of a plug and play guy. So I would love to see this spring Lyle really be a feature piece of what they do.
And I think no question about it. No, this is a great chance to see Lyle and remind everybody what he can do. The thing with, and I'm not speaking about anybody in particular, because I'll say this and people will think I'm talking about this person or that person. In general, having followed this for a long, long time, a lot of the hype guys that don't make it, a lot of times it is because they're just not locked in. They don't do the extra work. They lose focus. They react a certain way to setbacks and just kind of pack it in. Again, college football is hard. I couldn't do this stuff. I'm not trying to be critical in that way, but that's what often happens with some of these guys that don't make it, that have the ability. Lyle is a guy who's been like waking up at 5 to run with his dad since he was a kid. I mean, he is not the guy that slacks on the work part. You see him walking around. I mean, he is physically ready to rock and roll. It's just about, I think, mentally loosening it up, running with confidence, not thinking too much, not trying to do too much on every run, show everybody how good you are on every single run, and just sort of let the game come to him. Running back's an instinct position. From talking to people, I heard even in youth sports, he was kind of like that, where he'd get tight sometimes. And then when he would really, and everybody knew, hey, this guy's a stud. He's got it all. He's just got to put it together. And then when he did put it together, junior, senior year, Ohio State commit, one of the top backs in the country. I think he was On3's number 1 back in the country, period. It came together.
Yeah, he was.
So this is a pattern that talking to people you've seen since he was young, where everybody always knew he was the man. He always worked hard, but not always coming together on the field. And when it did, it was spectacular. So hopefully this year is the year where a Jordan Lyle puts it all together and is a true, 1A, 1B with Mark Fletcher. I mean, Marty Brown's going to have something to say about it. Gerard Pringle's going to have something to say about it. All the guys we're talking about. But this guy has NFL ability with his size, with his speed, with the ability to make guys miss, the contact balance, the pass blocking. I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, man, I watched Jordan Lyle last year. I didn't see any of the stuff you're talking about. People who've been to practice, people who saw him in high school have seen this. Now it's about putting it together in games and putting it together also against the great competition, not just the USFs, the Wake Forest. Can he do it against Ohio State and Texas A&M and the teams where you're running out Mark Fletcher and Marty Brown? That's the level we need to see it with Jordan Lyle. I think he can do it. I'm a believer in Jordan Lyle. I am ecstatic he's back. I don't think I know we didn't expect him back necessarily, but when he showed a willingness to come back, there's a reason why Miami was rolling out the red carpet. Some of these guys, when they say they want to leave, Miami's like, hey, better luck in your next
best of luck, man. Yeah.
They made it happen for Jordan Lyle, and they did it because they believe in what he can do.
Definitely.
All right, before we move on here, 1,000 on, by the way, like and subscribe. You want to kick back, watch the Super Bowl. Don't just do it with the old-fashioned brew. Do it with Papa's Alternative Brew. Promo code CANES Canes get you 25% off. They're mailing all over the country, including the state of Florida. This is not just some non-alcoholic beer. This is a real buzz, just without the booze. 7.5 milligrams to 10 milligrams of THC. And again, this is delivering all over the country, including Florida. Chill without the hangover. Just crack one open, kick off your boots, hop into your happy place for the American unwind. Sticky IPA, Lucky Lager. They got all kinds of flavors. I got a whole fridge full of these things. The owner, Nick West, our boy, chat regular. He's in the chat every single day. I'll call him Papa from now on. And I'm guessing he's the guy that the company's named after. You know him as Nick West. papasaltbrew.com. Promo code Canes, CANES, 25% off. So go ahead and get your can or your case today. And I need a lunch here, Pete, before we go to the table of knowledge over there later in the afternoon with our boy Stoney at Riviera. Got to grab a quick lunch. So I might head to East Las Canarias Cuban Express right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. 7 different types of croquetas, all kinds of classic sandwiches, whether it's the Cuban sandwich, medianoche, pan con lechon, you name it, all the classics they got. They also have new stuff like the cubaritos, which are classic flavors, but in a grab-and-go burrito. You got tostones, loaded fries. the sweets, the empanadas, tequeños, 50% off in honor of our Venezuelan brothers and sisters and their great win. Again, all the desserts, coffee, shakes, you name it. They got it. Islas Canarias Express at the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. So, Pete, very interesting topic that I wanted to get to. It's all over the CanesInSight.com message boards, 7.9 million posts and counting. And it comes from PFF, which when PFF says something I don't like, I trash them. When they say something I do like, we do a whole segment on it. So shout out to PFF. But they did a mock draft. And in that mock draft, you had not one, not two, not three, but 4 Miami Hurricanes drafted in the first round. There's, I believe, Trevor Sikkema, who does a lot of the PFF stuff, based a lot on just film analysis, but also PFF grades. And Ruben Bain, Francis Mauigoa right there, 2 and 3. That's not a surprise. You see them going somewhere in the top 10 in most mock drafts. Akeem Mesidor at 17 to Detroit Lions. I've seen that in other mock drafts, either 17, 18, 19, 20. He's in that range on most mock drafts. But then this the surprise, Keontae Scott at 29 going to the Los Angeles Rams, which actually I think is a good fit for the way he plays. What are your thoughts on this mock? And do you think it's even possible, if everything goes right, combine-wise, health-wise, whatever it is, could we see 4 Miami Hurricanes go in the first round of the draft, Pete?
Yeah, the Keontae Scott one would be awesome. And it's interesting because the Rams, and I say this a lot, they don't really go by – the reason Keontae Scott's not a surefire first-round pick is just because he's a nickel. He's not a boundary corner, right? So some teams are going to value that differently. The Rams do a lot of things differently when it comes to the draft process. I've said this before. They send the smallest contingent of people in terms of scouts and execs to the combine. They're very like game speed driven, analytics driven when it comes to the draft process. And then, with their situation in particular, one of their best defensive backs, Jacoby Durant, who's actually an FRM client, he's up for he had a bunch of picks here he had 2 picks against Caleb Williams in that game in the playoffs, that crazy game. He's up for, he's going to be a free agent this offseason, right? And he's played nickel. He's also played some boundary. So he's a guy that does remind me a lot of Keontae Scott in terms of their ball hawking ability. Scott's bigger than him, probably a little bit more, physical, but I could see that being a really good fit for him there at the end of the round. And the Rams are drafting. They're a film-based team, D. So which is they aren't caring as much on the 40-yard dash times and some of the combine metric related things. So I think Scott and Kitchens would be an awesome combo back there. Canes fans would be Rams fans real quick. The new Ravens.
But Pete, like you said, what was the thing with Cam Kitchens? Cam Kitchens, what do you run? 4.6 something?
4.7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that was something that knocked him. But if you're not looking at the combine, you're going to value him higher. The Rams.
But he went third round? D?
Yeah.
He went third round. Pick. I mean, that's what he was projected to go, though. I mean, people saw the mock drafts, him going first round. He was projected to really go in that range. Like, teams knew he wasn't fast. If he would have gone out there and run something that would have surprised teams, if he ran in the high 4.5s, that's where he becomes a first round pick. But teams weren't expecting him to run fast. So,
and with Keontae Scott, the thing that people aren't talking about, which is why I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick.
Punt
returning. Yeah, good point. I wasn't going to say that, but you're absolutely right. But why I think he could potentially be a first-round pick, and you mentioned, you said punt returning. He was one of the best punt returners in the country 2 seasons ago, number 1 in the SEC. But I think he's going to run 4.4. He was a 10.9 guy in high school. He's never to me shown a lack of speed. So I could see him actually running 4.4. His size is fine. His interviews are going to be outstanding. I heard somebody say
10-yard split will be really good.
Should be great. You talk to people around the program, they say this guy's like one of the best leaders they've ever been around in football. I mean, that kind of leader coming back from the turf toe. You know how coaches operate when it comes to injuries. They don't like injuries, period. Obviously, when it comes to like projecting guys, you get nervous about the injuries. But when a guy comes back from an injury early and plays exceptionally well, you feel great about the mindset. You feel great about the way he's able to play through injury. And, some of these guys, Pete, you being around the pros more than me, you've seen this. Like, not all returns from injury are created equal. Like, there's a lot of times where coaches are like, man, I think this guy's kind of milking it, right? I mean, it's not like every time someone's out, it's like everybody just says, okay, he's out. He should be out. Like, there's a mental element to that as well.
Yeah, and he passed that test with flying colors without any guarantee that Miami was going to actually even go to the playoffs, right? Because, like, he could have easily partially checked out, said, man, I got to get right for the Senior Bowl, which he didn't end up playing in the Senior Bowl. But I think looking back on it now, what's more valuable for him? The games against Ohio State, Texas A&M, Indiana, Ole Miss, or 3 practices in front of scouts that you got to let the tape speak for itself, right? So, and I have no idea, like, if he could have had a setback in this process, right? And we can say that now, but, like, imagine he's pushing himself, and he creates an even bigger setback for the draft. That's all in play. So he took the risk on himself, and he didn't take it easy. He really put the pedal to the metal and did what he had to do to get himself back. And I think it will pay itself out here when it comes to the draft. To me, top 50, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think what he really risked was the pro process, because what the doctor said is you come back early with this turf toe, you could screw yourself up for the combine. You could screw yourself up for the draft.
That's what I'm saying. That's the whole, not just the Senior Bowl, but, like, if you aren't able to run in the combine, and then you have to wait until pro day, and then at that point you only have one chance to run, right? So, yeah, crazy. If he gets in, I think he deserves it. It comes down to what Kyle's saying here, though. It's got to be a team that is really in a good spot already.
Yeah. The Rams, I think, would be, like, picture perfect. Looking at this mock, it's really not a crazy mock, and some of the stuff I might be a little different than how it plays out, but it's not like this is like one of those mocks where the guy's just trying to make a statement. Really, the one that jumps out to you, there's a couple. I mean, McDonald maybe a little high as a nose tackle, Caden McDonald, but I think really Keontae Scott's one of those outliers in this mock. Everything else is somewhat chalk, or at least close to chalk. Will Bain and Malinois go 2-3? I don't know. I think they're, in my opinion, like, having watched all of these guys a ton, I would have those guys 2 and 3 behind Mendoza. I think they have. And
if that happens, that'd be fun. How good would that be for the storylines?
Oh my goodness. Someone sent me some stats here. Let me pull up the stat here. I don't know if this is going to happen, by the way, but if it did, it would be the first time it's happened since, as I pull up my stats, you had Penn State with Courtney Brown and LeVar Arrington. This was before your time. That was in 2000, but I remember that year.
LeVar Arrington from Penn State, right?
And Courtney Brown was number 1 pick from Penn State. He was not.
LeVar Arrington, Penn State, his Penn State highlights are nasty. I've seen those.
Jumping over the line, yeah. So that was that. There were 1 and 2. And then in 2023, Alabama had Bryce Young go number 1, Will Anderson go number 3. So those are the other times where you had this situation play out. I don't know if it'll play out this way. I think it could. The Jets need an edge rusher bad. They've been linked to Arvell Reese, Arvell Reese is a really good player. But to me, if you're talking about plug and play, run and pass, Ruben Bain, to me, would be that guy. But I understand why they go in Arvell Reese as a projection, or David Bailey, really good pass rusher. But run, pass, kind of temperament and culture, I'd go Ruben Bain. And now I know he's been linked to both the Cardinals at 3 and then the Titans at 4. I guess either one of those. He's not going to drop very far because of just the need for tackle. It's going to be him and Spencer Fano somewhere in this top 10, I got to think. So we'll see how it plays out. But that to me makes a lot of sense. If it goes this way, by the way, number 1 and 2, both from the city of Miami in this mock draft, with Mendoza from Columbus High School, Ruben Bain from Miami Central. But with going back to Scott before we just leave, I think a lot of that's going to be, how do you value the nickel position? And I think this is a debate right now, because I've heard people who are NFL former NFL guys plugged in say the teams need to do a better job of valuing the nickel because these guys are going too late, right? You look at Iman. I'll promise you by the time the Super Bowl comes, I'll have this name right. Imanwara, the nickel for the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. How in the world does that guy go second round when he's the freak of nature testing wise? He had good tape. Obviously, he's worth the pick because he's now in the Super Bowl is probably the most impactful defensive player on the Seahawks. He's a nickel, and he's got all the traits. He should have never gone in that late. Brian Branch for the Detroit Lions. Everybody knew he was a great player. He ran 4.6, something in that range, 4.5, higher 4.5. But he should have never slipped to the Lions. Ended up being one of their best players. Look at just, again, some of these nickels, they just should never, ever drop that way. Cooper DeJean. Like, why was Cooper DeJean a second-round pick? Right? He was a great athlete, great player at Iowa. So he got a shout-out on Monday Night Raw yesterday with his girlfriend, Nikki Bella. But I don't think he should have dropped. So, look, could Keontae Scott drop in the second round where those guys go second round? Yes. That's what history says would happen. But maybe the Rams say, or a team like the Rams say, I don't want to wait till the second round to get a guy like this. We might not get a shot at him. Let's just grab him now. In the production will be of a first-round pick because I promise you, they did a redraft of that last year's draft. Imanwara is going top 10, top 15. Brian Branch is going first round. Cooper DeJean is going first round. So Keontae Scott would be basically getting ahead of that trend.
Yeah, 4, man. That'd be crazy. I don't see it happening, D, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it's just going through some of these names before we get off it, just some interesting names that we can maybe learn from. I think first thing I jumped to is Georgia with only one guy in this first round. And he's a late, 26th pick at linebacker with CJ Allen. Now you could see Monroe Freeland go in the first round at the tackle, who Miami recruited also in the same class as Mauano and Sampson. I could see him getting in that mix where you get 2 first rounders, but certainly Georgia on the way down. You look at Clemson with 2 first round picks. We'll get to Clemson in a second. They lost a lot of talent. Ohio State in this draft, what do they got? 4, 5? They got Reese, Sonny Styles, Caden McDonald, Caleb Downs.
Which D, I did an afternoon show yesterday, and I was talking because we had mentioned Pate's rankings, his preseason rankings. I kind of did a show reacting to it after I had time to really look at it. I'm not buying Ohio State next year. And I know they do this every year. They have big time talent that's gone. I don't know if they're replacing that.
Can I tell you a red flag?
Tell me.
They are really excited about landing Earl Little to replace Caleb Downs. I mean, that's like their marquee addition. And we'll do, like I said, we're going through all the portal rankings and trying to understand what every team looks like. We got plenty of time to, but I really want to dissect the portal rankings to understand the portal classes to see who's who and what's what, because these teams change so much year after year. We're doing Clemson on today's show. But when Earl Little is like a prize of your class, the guy that Malachi Toney just completely turned around like a whirling dervish in that Florida State game, I'm not loving life if I'm an Ohio State fan. And you lose in this scenario, which I don't think this scenario is far-fetched at all, 5 players in the first round, including Caleb Downs, who we played Earl Little. We played Caleb Downs. There is a Grand Canyon difference between Caleb Downs and Earl Little. Look at the way they handled Malachi Toney. I mean, Malachi Toney was toying with Earl Little as a joke. Caleb Downs was dealing with Malachi Toney. Now, he had 2 years on him, but Caleb Downs was the only player who was able to stop Malachi Toney and tackle him in space consistently. And obviously, he's off the board here. Another thing with this, Pete, we're talking about Ohio State. 5 players first round, which I think is probably going to be accurate or close to it. Miami with 4. Maybe it's 4 and 3 instead of 5 and 4. But if you're looking at just that, you would say that the 2 most talented teams in the country in terms of frontline guys were Ohio State and Miami. And having seen, I was at that game. I was at all the playoff games. Watched the rest on TV, obviously. I would agree with that characterization. I thought the 2 most talented rosters that I saw, Pete, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The 2 most talented rosters I saw were Ohio State and Miami, which would reflect this draft.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't see it, but we had someone tell us, D, that Clemson was just as talented as Miami this year. We have seen Clemson with, maybe 4 top 50 picks. I'm actually banking on Clemson having a bounce back year.
All right, well, listen, let's do the transition then. What a segue. Let's get the segue going, Pete. As we go into, again, this is a segment we're doing every single show, which is we want to go around the country, understand these different portal classes. We're starting with the ACC. Last show, we talked about Stanford kind of staying in place. Nothing really crazy on the way out or on the way in. They did bring in a transfer from Yale at wide receiver who could probably help, maybe a Cooper Barkate type for him, FCS All-America. But pretty much.
Why would you say such a thing?
Well, the Ivy League transfer. FCS All-America, a receiver.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a fair comparison. But they're kind of staying in place. Their quarterback situation, I don't see a huge improvement bringing in the kid from Michigan who sat out last year. I don't see that being a improved Stanford team talent-wise. We'll see with another year of continuity with Andrew Luck. We talked about Wake Forest. Great trajectory of the program, but talent-wise, they lost some of their best receivers. They lost their left tackle to Texas. They lost their star defensive tackle to Texas Tech. Okay, so those teams, we're looking at them in place or taking a step back talent-wise. This next one's really interesting, Pete, because the Clemson Tigers, the team that has dominated the ACC for over a decade, 2 national championships, 3 appearances. You look at them last year, preseason top 5 for everybody, ends up losing the Pinstripe Bowl, having a completely disappointing season. But man, they lose a ton. 5 top 50 picks potentially. When you talk about Peter Woods at defensive tackle, TJ Parker at defensive end, who had an outstanding Senior Bowl week, Blake Miller at right tackle, who I've been going back and watching Clemson today, Pete, preparing for this show this morning. I was watching some Christopher Vizina starts and just his snaps. That right tackle for Clemson, Blake Miller, former wrestler, he might go first round. He's a stud. So those 3 potentially going first round. Avion Terrell as a corner, he could go first round. His brother's one of the better corners in the NFL, AJ Terrell. But Avion Terrell, really, really good instinctive corner. And then Antonio Williams, number 0 at slot receiver, he was dynamic as well. So they could potentially lose 5 top 50 picks this year. Certainly, they're losing the players, but I'm saying all those guys could be top 50 players. That is an extraordinary amount of talent out the door when you're losing the Pinstripe Bowl.
It is. It is. I think this whole season was a wash for them, D, as a whole from the beginning. It obviously wasn't the talent on the team. It doesn't seem like it was because they're going to have 5 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft, it appears. So I just think from the beginning, whatever you want to blame it on, I don't know. Maybe Dabo is washed. Maybe that is what it is. But I still believe in the fact that, and they haven't had top 5 recruiting classes. That's not their MO, but I still do believe they do a good job in evaluating their guys and getting them better throughout the years. Now, how that all comes together for them as a team, I don't know. I like their weapons offensively. I mean, at least on the outside, right? With Wesco and with TJ Moore, who I think we're both big fans of. Naeem Burrows could be a good one. And I'm betting on them not doing this. How many years in a row? I guess 2 years. Because even we're talking about it like it was, they made the playoffs 2 years ago. Miami did not make the playoffs 2 years ago. So things change very quickly, obviously. But I don't think it's a smart bet to say that they're going to repeat what they did last year. I think, look at the schedule, but I'm looking at them getting back to that 10 wins, man. Oof. 9-10 wins. I really am.
That's a hot take. Betting on the
believer.
brand.
I'm a believer. Dude, Dabo, what? He had one bad season here or jumping off the thing because he didn't want to go to the portal like everyone else.
And the year before, they really did not have a great team, and they still won the ACC.
And he made it. Right? So, listen, Mr. Lexiani, he says, I agree, Clemson's still Clemson. I don't know that it's that, but I'm saying let's put a little bit of respect on them. I'm not, they were in the playoffs 2 seasons ago. Like, we're not that far removed from it.
No, and I'm a Dabo fan. I like him. I enjoy having him in the ACC, and I think he's a great coach, obviously, and has built a great culture there that maybe plays above its weight. They got their coordinators set up. You got Allen back for year 2, former Penn State defensive coordinator, who Clemson, the defense got better, certainly stopping the run better with him at the helm. He's in year 2. You bring back Chad Morris at OC, who was the OC during the glory years, had to run as head coach.
I'm looking at their schedule. There's no reason they can't win 10 games.
And they host Miami. So from a Miami
they
standpoint,
host Miami at LSU, but that place is going to be, it's week 1. So if they split Miami and LSU and still drop another game along the way, that's a 10-win. That's a 10-win team.
Yeah. And look, let me do the negative part here first. We talked about they lose 5 top 50 players. That's a ton of talent. I mean, the only teams I think that could lose that many top 50 players, not even Miami, because Miami is really looking at potentially 4. Ohio State, right? How many other teams are losing 5 top 50 players in the country? I don't think any. That's a lot.
Well,
they had
Ohio
the number.
State. Did you say Ohio State?
Ohio State's the only one, yeah. And Miami, I think, is 4 because if Keontae Scott, well, I think he'll probably go top 50. But if not, like, who else is even in that mix for Miami? I don't think anybody else. Maybe Carson Beck, top 50 is a little rich. So that's probably the only team besides Ohio State losing 5 top 50 players. That's out the door. And in terms of what's coming in, you bring in the number 70 portal class, 7-0, with 9 players coming in, and then the number 20 high school class. You do return some talented guys. TJ Moore is a stud, originally from Key West, then moved to Tampa, signed with Clemson. Miami tried to get him big time. He's really, really good. Brian Wesco, who dealt with a neck injury, I believe, last year, number 12. We compared him to like an Amon Richards type, really, really talented wide receiver. You get those 2 guys back, you're feeling very good. They bring in Naeem Burrows from that number 20 high school class, who's from Jacksonville, really talented wide receiver. Sammy Brown, the linebacker's back. You lose Wood but 9 players incoming. That's more than they've usually done, but it's not a big number, and 0 4-star transfers coming in. Look at some of the names that did come in. I think probably the most familiar to Canes fans would be Chris Johnson at running back. This is Chris Johnson Jr., the Miami signed out of Dillard. The track star goes to SMU. Look at his numbers at SMU last year. Not terrible. I mean, 479 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Wasn't quite the Brashard Smith season that we thought he might have, but he did have an 85-yarder, hit a 50-yarder. I mean, he has the speed to break it. So in this new Chad Morris offense, could he do something? I don't know, but it's not a ton of exciting transfers in. You lose both of your safeties. Ricardo Jones, who had 6 picks, moves on to Vanderbilt. Khalil Barnes moves on to Georgia. So probably 2 better programs than you right now, at least in terms of on-field play with Vanderbilt and certainly Georgia. They're out the door. Marcus Dixon, a defensive end, goes to Oregon. Stephylin Green, Pete, the defensive tackle you talked about.
Good. Miami wanted him, yeah.
He goes to LSU, and they're number 1 ranked portal class. So you lose 13, and some of the ones you're losing are going to bigger programs. Then who are you bringing in? We mentioned Chris Johnson. Corey Myrick, a highly productive safety out of Southern Miss. The production's there, 91 tackles, 2 picks, forced fumble, great PFF grade over 80, 700-plus snaps. You feel good about him coming in. Maybe he's better than the guys out the door, but it is going to be a jumping competition. Jerome Carter from Old Dominion, another highly productive FBS, maybe G5, but at least FBS type of safety. 76 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 6 interceptions. So bringing in 2 productive safeties from the G5 level.
And look, this is the important stuff, right? It's who are they bringing in to replace it? I just think, as I've said, like, people, Aspire Consulting says Clemson stunk it up 2 years straight. I wish we stunk it up 2 years ago and made it to the playoffs, right? Like, there's a bit of a perception that has been, because they kind of snuck in at the end there, but they made it. And who's to say that they can't do something similar once again?
And again, it's the new blood in terms of the coaching staff. Chad Morris, it's weird calling him a new blood because he made his name at Clemson as the offensive coordinator, but he comes in replacing Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's brother. who was a highly touted guy when he got to Clemson, but his star has dimmed. So you go back to the past a little bit with a Chad Morris, the new safeties coach. I mentioned you totally replace the safety room with guys going to Vanderbilt and Georgia. You're bringing in guys from Southern Miss and Old Dominion who are very productive. Elliott Washington comes in at corner. Big. He was on Bruce Feldman's freak list. 4.3 runner, big, strong guy, rotational player at Penn State, played under Tom Moore, who was Penn State's defensive coordinator, just finished his first season as Clemson's defensive coordinator. So he gets that reunion, 53 tackles, 9 pass deflections, 2 interceptions across 3 years at Penn State. So maybe you get something out of him. You had the Luke Farrelly transfer saga, the linebacker from Cal, who was the ACC Freshman of the Year on defense, transfers to Clemson. Ole Miss tampers while he's at Clemson. Now he's at Ole Miss. You heard that whole story play out in the press. They got a couple on the defensive line. Will Helt comes back, who was their big transfer guy last year, who I thought was a good pickup from Purdue. But you look at what they've done to replace a Peter Woods and TJ Parker, who are first-round type NFL talents. FCS defensive linemen, a couple rotational guys at the P4 level, not like any big-time names on defensive line, but the one you can get a little excited about, London Merritt coming in from Colorado at defensive end, true freshman last year, 8 tackles for loss, Atlanta kid, 6'3", 250. Was still not a 4-star transfer according to the ratings, but look at the production. There is some upside there. So
904 says we only like to show people's comments that we agree with. He says we're living in the past. 2 years ago is 2 years ago. That's not really the past, man. I'm saying we can't count them out. They may not have the most talented team in the country, but they just had 5 guys who were going to be top 50 picks is what I'm saying. And it didn't matter. They had a bad team. So who's to say that a less talented team can't go out there and outperform that?
Yeah. And they're at home. So with highly touted coordinators.
And let's give Dabo some respect. The guy I understand what it looked like last year, but Dabo's a good coach, man. Let's stop it.
Yeah. And he's trying to go in the portal. I mean, 9 portal entries is more than he's had as far as guys coming in. But I still think they probably, overall in the portal, I would say net loser. We'll see how those safeties are, right? Because it's a refresh of the safeties room with a new safeties coach. Are they going to upgrade at safety with these highly productive G5 guys, or the guys that they lost to SEC competitors going to be better? That's going to be something to keep an eye on. But really, to me, the 2 questions with this team, very simple. Quarterback. A lot of Clemson fans, and Kyle knows because Kyle's in the comments, he's up there in South Carolina. Clemson fans are really down on Vizina. They wanted a portal quarterback. I was surprised by how down people were on Vizina. It was maybe just because he couldn't beat out Cade Klubnik, and Cade Klubnik didn't play very well. But apparently the reports out of practice on Vizina aren't that good. You have former players kind of saying, hey, he's not the guy. I watched every snap that he took against Southern Methodist, which was his start this year. He played well. He had good stats, 3 touchdowns, no picks, high completion percentage. You look at him in that game, big, strong guy, 6'4", I believe he's from Birmingham, Alabama, one of your favorite spots there, Pete. Big, strong, sturdy player. Not that athletic. I think athleticism would be a downgrade from Cade Klubnik, but strong, 6'4", and NFL size. The arm was good. He has a good arm. Maybe not the most accurate passer in terms of ball placement, just really throwing those tight spirals. The ball can miss high. Placement not perfect, but I thought arm was there. I thought size was there. He looked tough. Athleticism probably not there to the level of what you had with Klubnik. So we'll see. Kyle was there. He said his brother-in-law played at Clemson. He was at the SMU Clemson game. Well, let us know your scouting report there, Kyle, and tell me if I'm saying it wrong. My view on Vizina, big, strong pocket passer, needs to get not that athletic.
When we do a lot of this stuff 2D, I'm doing it from a Miami perspective, right? And how things will affect Miami. And I think the Sharks outfit, to me, kind of says it how I'm feeling. He says, I guess since we had this run, we're all high and mighty now. Playing Clemson on the road will be tough. Playing UNC Halloween night will be tough. Wake Forest on the road will be tough. I agree with all of this. Miami just lost to SMU and Louisville this last season. If we're talking about what we've seen lately, let's not live in the past. What I saw this last year is Miami lost 2 ACC games to teams that were way less talented than they were.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going back to that, but it's going to happen. Can we remember, what did they call before Clemson got over the hump there? What did Clemson do every single year, D?
Win the
Lost
ACC.
Well, what they do though, what they call it, they called it Clemsoning.
Yeah,
Clemsoning. They lost to an inferior.
Oh yeah,
opponent.
sorry. Before they got over the hump.
Before they got over the hump, what were they
100%.
doing? Right. This isn't like, and you could in Miami, have we gotten over the hump? I don't know that we can call it getting over the hump. We've gotten to a much better place, but I think we got, like when we have the "Are we back?" discussion. I personally think we're back, but a lot of people say you got to win it before you can say that. So this is still very much something that Miami has to keep. Let's not look at Clemson like there's some lowly program here. I have a lot of respect for them. I understand that the last season wasn't anywhere near what they're used to there. I know the talent with the portal isn't what it used to be there, but I'm respecting them moving forward until something shows me otherwise.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, you said it. Before they got over the hump, it was Clemsoning, and then that's what Miami's been kind of doing to a certain degree in the ACC. You made the point yesterday that Darian Mentz has played these teams in the ACC, which is going to help his transition. He beat Clemson last year, really lit him up at Clemson. So that's a good guy to have a quarterback who's seen it before, seen this exact defense before with Coach Moore there on the defensive side of the ball for Clemson. So that'll help. But yeah, until you show that you don't have to worry about these games because you're going to be locked in every single time, it's a concern. And according to Kyle, they're selling alcohol at games now, right in time for Miami to get over there. I'll be out there at Clemson. That's the plan. We're looking at lake houses right now to rent with the family by there. Seems like a great place to see a game. But really, to me, the Vecina part is the part to watch. Again, new offensive coordinator in Chad Morris, but not a lot of love for Vecina with the Clemson fans. And I do think his lack of athleticism will hurt him a bit, because the other big issue with Clemson is they cannot run the ball at all. I mean, they're one of the worst running teams in the country, like period, point blank, like 100-something in yards per carry, also in the hundreds in terms of total yards per game. It just doesn't look good when you watch it. It's just, I don't know how they are so bad running the football. And if you look at their talent, they had Adam Randall last year who went to the Senior Bowl. So it's not like they didn't have a running back that could go. This is a guy with speed. I'm sure he'll do well in the combine, had size, former wide receiver. So they had talent at running back, and they still couldn't run the ball. Kate Klubnik could run, so he was a threat to keep it, and they still couldn't run the ball. Their right tackle is outstanding, and they still couldn't run the ball. So, Are they going to run the ball better without that Senior Bowl running back, Adam Randall, without a quarterback who's any threat to keep the ball? That, to me, is the question with Clemson, because when they were good, you had mobile quarterbacks, and you had Etienne, who was one of the best running backs in the country. You weren't like an overwhelming first-round laden offensive line, but you did the job and you could do it. So I don't know what they got going on there in the running game for Clemson. That would be my concern if I'm a Clemson fan, because if you bring in Vecina, he's not going to carry you. Maybe he can do the job, but he's not going to carry you, even with those great receivers that they have. You have to run the football, and I'm not sure their running game is going to get better. If anything, it might take a step back because of the lack of mobility at quarterback.
I'm betting big on the Tigers in 2026, man. Maybe it's blind faith. Maybe it's blind faith. Maybe it's blind faith. But
yeah, they're definitely evaluating if they got 5 guys in the top 50. They're doing some evaluating.
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be some guys on the roster that aren't household names now and they've done it for years, right? This isn't just like a new thing. It's not. They've done this for what, 10 years plus years, so more.
And Will Huck can get after it. He's coming back. I saw him at defensive end. He was like really the first transfer guy Dabo got that was a real player, and he ended up being really good. So we'll have to deal with him without Mawanoa and Bell and all these guys. So he could be a problem. Just you're thinking of one example. But yeah, man, a lot of questions on that Clemson offense, aside from wide receiver, where I think they're going to be absolutely spectacular with more Wesco and Name Burrows.
There was a lot of questions about Louisville's offensive line, and they beat Miami. Yeah. So I'm just saying, as I look into how all this affects Miami, this is a team that's on the schedule. So
no doubt, man. So it'll be fun to watch. I'll be out there. You going out to Clemson? Are you making your travel schedule here?
I don't know yet, man. Maybe regular season games. I did SMU last year. It is what it is, man. I think the team can do without me for a lot of those.
You're like Fletcher, man. We got to save you for the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we wrap up here, wanted to shout out our friends at the Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com, located right across the street from the University of Miami, next to the Thesis Hotel, or online at MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off your first item. Basketball, with your support, the bounce back after a tough Cal loss. Baseball, as we get ready here for the season starting in a couple weeks. Sweaters, which you're going to need because it is still cold here in South Florida and across the country. We're just commemorating that great run. Look at this hoodie with the Fiesta Bowl. That's pretty cool right there. A lot of great hoodies and shirts and different things commemorating Miami's run. MiamiHTS.com. It's Miami Hurricane Team Store. Promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off your first item. And always got to shout out my friends at KashKick, KashKick. I know you're wasting time, just killing time, getting ready for the next CanesInSight show or the next, I don't know, YouTube to drop for the Hurricanes as we prepare for a long but fun offseason recruiting, all that kind of stuff. Give your free time a raise while you're rating. Download the KashKick app, KashKick, in the App Store. You got games, you got browsing, you got surveys, all on the app. And when you do all that stuff, you are earning real money on the side. Go straight to your PayPal. Over 4.5 average rating, 1.5 plus million downloads. Is all legit. One of the biggest apps in the country. Get some free money, easy money with your free time. KashKick. So, yeah, man, that's two position groups down, two good ones, quarterback and running back, man. I feel good about both heading into 2026. That's as low as you're going to get for the Miami Hurricanes. Feeling pretty darn good there. It's come a long way from, 2022. We were hoping for TVD to keep. We were probably pretty excited about TVD coming off the finish he had, but certainly that didn't work out. Jake Garcia, I don't know, what he's doing these days in the running back room.
He just ended up at another school. I just saw he got another year of eligibility. Well, he got another year of eligibility. I don't know if he's signed anywhere yet, but he was at Michigan last year. So,
yeah. East Carolina too. That's become a pipeline. I think Emory will outperform Jake Garcia.
Jake's last tweet is giving props to Leonard Taylor on his block, saying LT with all these exclamation marks.
Class of 21, man. That was Leonard Taylor in the pros. Camp Kitchens doing his thing. Had a sack in the playoffs recently. James Williams at linebacker for the Titans. Elijah Arroyo playing this game. Andre Borregales. Both those guys are class of 21 playing in the Super Bowl. So there's a few guys from that class doing their thing. Yep. Ryan Rodriguez starting at center for the Canes next year. Mo Hussein, appreciate your support as always. Says sold out season tickets. Pack the Rock. Show up. By the way, class of 21, Lawrence Big Baby Seymour signing with Texas.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day.
Yeah, so a few of those guys. Brashard Smith ended up doing his thing, going to the pros for the Kansas City Chiefs. A few of those guys did their thing. Romello Brinson looks like he might get drafted after going to SMU. Not everybody had a straight path, but there was definitely talent in that class. EJ points out Chase Smith coming back for another year with the Canes. So that 21 class wasn't with a spectacular class we thought, where we said, hey, maybe, Jake Garcia is our franchise quarterback. You have James Williams and Leonard Taylor going first round. It didn't play out necessarily like that, but you did get some NFL guys in there and some guys that helped the Canes. Your boy Manny on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, that's a scary sight if you're a fan of Duke, man. Manny on the recruiting trail. Kind of just spits all over himself. But, yep. Glad we don't deal with that anymore, man.
We got a lot of recruiting to talk about with the Canes and some big-time players, national recruits, Mario Cristobal level recruiting. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.